Let's talk about Jenna from Survivor Amazon back in 2003. She signed a contract with you guys. She's going to do a vignette with Mick Foley. She's 28. She was a swimsuit model before she did Survivor. She parlayed the success on Survivor into a Playboy cover. Allegedly, she got $1 million payoff for that, and of course, she won the million for winning the game show Survivor. Well, I mean, I know you're courting attention, and I know that's probably Dixie's lane, but if I'm Sanjay Dutt,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell, Jeff? I've been here 5 years, man.
Or Petey Williams or Jimmy.
Yeah, I created the hottest move your company ever had, but we're gonna give a check to the Survivor girl, lady. I don't mean that ugly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But then that was obviously you're kind of voicing those opinions. It was rampant, and it was something that there was always kind of that discussion. Survivor, yes, it's a CBS/Paramount product, but she just didn't hit our demo, if you will. And yes, okay, if she's not hitting our demo, we want to go outside it. Yeah, she's what you said, swimsuit model and Survivor and all that. But bringing value to the product, that was always the question that I'll just say the creative room would say, okay, can, and I'm not saying actually wrestle a match, but that's where we're heading. What can she do? What's her offense? What's her defense? Well, let me back up. Will she physically get involved? Can she cut a promo? Those are the first two questions. And bless her heart, Connie, no to both.
Bless your heart. That's the real thing. Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Dutch Mantel. It's in the torch that he's not been contributing as much to creative lately. He's been working as an agent on most of the shows, spending a lot of time with the knockouts. And it's even written here. Mantel was laughed at by colleagues when he suggested months ago that the main event mafia would get over stronger if they had their own flag they carried to the ring with them. I don't know what's so funny about that. Do you remember that?
I don't remember this. And that is a narrative, like we've already talked about, that somebody, Dutch, and it's not surprisingly because he didn't give a damn. Who was I just chuckling with the other day about him? But Dutch obviously rubbed somebody the wrong way. But him not being involved, that's all complete nonsense. At the very least, and this is something that I'll say this. I learned this probably more from, well, my dad or Lawler, either one, even a Bill Dundee who booked a lot. Dutch certainly is, hey man, get some eyes get other eyes on this. They're going to kind of see something. So I don't think there was a show that I didn't at least say, hey man, any feedback? And look, it's up to me to decipher it. I think that's kind of what it is. I think it's a very strong trait of a leader is to engage team members to take criticism and feedback, and then it's up to you. The ball was in my court. The responsibility rested on my shoulders, but nonsense of him not being involved. It's silly.
We got to talk about this little nugget from the torch. Jeff Jarrett is a stickler for coming up with reasons why the television cameras are present during backstage segments, which is why you always see Jeremy Borash or Lauren holding the microphone in scenes they sometimes don't fit in. Others, including Dutch, a Jarrett loyalist, have tried to talk him out of creating reasons for the cameras to be present, but he hasn't budged so far. I wanted to bring this up because I remember when AEW first became a thing, that was a big conversation about things that AEW would never do. You know, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're going to have stipulations. It won't be something where we pay something off and then a month later we pretend like it didn't happen. And they also said, we're not going to insult the audience's intelligence and let you think the guys are carrying on a private conversation, but you just happen to be privy to everything they're saying with a freaking camera right there. But that was common in WWE. So if you're going to watch WWE, you had to sort of suspend your disbelief for your entire WWE and for that matter, WCW fandom Clearly, somebody here was saying we shouldn't be doing this. And I'm curious where the pushback on that came from because we know Russo did it extensively. Chat me up.
That was this was I mean, I was a stickler for it. And I thought as a brand, six-sided ring, four different divisions, but we'll call it sports presentation. But sometimes that irritated and aggravated folks in the creative room. Like, well, what do you mean by this? They can have an arrival shot. I'm like, yes, and they know it's being shot. But when you get into dialogue, and I hate to use that word, but that is an accurate word, that when you get into dialogue and you're having a conversation and you don't acknowledge the camera and you're talking, it just becomes a to me it's a different feel of a product, and I think it's a subconscious type deal. And there's certain movie scenes through the years. The first one I ever remember seeing that I chuckled at is Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit, where he looked directly into the camera and kind of winked and went on. And look, I'm still 40 years later, I'm still talking about this. But as a product, I was a very much a stickler on that, in that, look, I don't have to have the announcer say anything, but I want them there because they're on the scene reporting. Boy, oh boy, Vince hated that I had that mindset, and a lot of the people in the room. And then Dutch began to, it really was like, well, Jeff, do you really? And like, yes, we'll figure a way. But that was kind of my mindset, again, to differentiate us from the WWE is a part of that decision, but I also thought it just made for better content. Because again, I'm going to give it into the more realism or sports vibe branded product.
Let's talk a little bit about where the buys are. We're finally here at the pay-per-view Destination X, March 15th, 2009. Last year's Destination X, 2008, did 20,000 buys. Last month's pay-per-view, Against All Odds, did 20,000 buys. But we've just set not one, but two ratings records in between those pay-per-views. So this one does 30,000. You're up 50% in 30 days, Jeff. The Main Event Mafia was clicking, right?
It was. And, doing the simple math, $40 product, 20 goes to us, roughly 20 times 10. What is that? 200,000, 200 extra $1,000 this month. Had we have run it on the road, there goes your profit. Your majority, the difference in. So, yeah, I mean, we were up again. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but I can't do it that quick in my math. The percentage of our revenue, or did Dave say that? What were we at? 70, 80% of rights fees guaranteed. So it wasn't a make or break every month.
Right.
2 hours on pay-per-view. Again, you've heard me say this. Are we going to win the ratings or not war? Are we going to win who's going to win the war internally? The ratings or the buy rates? And more we leaned into the ratings.